Hi. Thank you. Thank you. I hate writing, and yet here I am at Fair Experiment, a very writing-intensive storytelling class. Weird, right? Now, I do write in my everyday life. I post a lot on LinkedIn. I write a blog occasionally, but writing really isn't my thing. And for the first time in public, I'm going to share something with you. Part of why it's so deeply rooted that I hate writing is because I have a learning disability. Yeah. I've had it since second grade. I find reading, writing, spelling, grammar, all that stuff is really hard for me. It was really difficult. The kids in class would see me being pulled out all the time, and they didn't really think much of me. I definitely wasn't at the same grade level as my classmates. Yeah, I got extra help all the time. One of the worst moments for me was being in third grade, where we had to self-assign how much we read for a group, and then showing up to that group and being like, I didn't do the reading. They deprived me of my snack, and I was really sad, but it was because it was hard, It was just not easy for me. The way I describe how it feels is that reading made my head hurt. Don't get me started on those. Go around the room and everyone read a section activities. Remember those? The worst. I don't know if you did what I did, but I would try to calculate which section would be mine so that I could practice it so I wouldn't screw up in front of my classmates. Yes, Nick agrees here. Absolutely. Sometimes I would even go to the bathroom to skip my turn. I definitely stood out for my classmates, no doubt. I remember once in class, I raised my hand and asked what, according to everybody else, seemed like a very stupid question. As someone who studied education, I would think a teacher would be patient, but what did the teacher instead do? Instead of answer my question, she laughed at me in front of everybody. No! Yeah. Because I was that kid that was always pulled out for extra help, I oftentimes was one of those kids that no one ever wanted to partner with during those dreaded everybody pick a partner activities. Hated those, right? You know what I mean? Yeah, and it didn't help that I was completely devoid of social skills. So I think back to a time in 5th grade where we had one of these activities. It was a moment where the smarty pants kids were in one room and the rest of us were shifted away in another room. We were about 30 of us packed into this room like sardines. And the teacher says, we're gonna do an activity together and you get to pick your partners. Immediately, I'm sure you recognize the scene where kids are looking at each other, they're pointing, they're like, oh, we're gonna work together, we're gonna work together. Everyone's making eye contact. And me, Shaily, who has no friends, completely not sure who is gonna wanna work with me. I was scared, and on this day, it gets a little worse for me. The way we picked partners wasn't just you just picked somebody and then whoever was leftovers would batch together. That wasn't bad for me. But in this day, the way it worked is that the person closest to the door would stand up in front of everybody and pick who they wanted, and no matter who that person was or any prior arrangements they had, that person had to be your partner. Guess who was sitting by the front door that day? It's me. Yeah, it was terrifying. So I'm there, the teacher's looking at me to make a pick, and I'm here terrified because I don't want to ruin anyone else's relationships. Do I go with the people who always get suckered into working with me? Do I look for eye contact in hopes that somebody's gonna be okay to work with me? It was awful. And I remember just saying to everybody, would anybody want to work with me? Yeah, it was not fun. Yeah, I didn't want to pick anybody. I remember another crazy weird story from my childhood about an attempt at an unfunny prank. Do we have pranksters in the audience here? Yeah, oh man. I was the goody two-shoes, so I would have been scared of you, right? And I thought it would be hilarious to take one of those old-timey glue sticks from school and just rub it all over a kid's chair. I was like, this is hilarious. Now, I didn't have any friends to tell me that I was being really weird. So what ended up happening? I smeared the glue stick all over this poor boy's chair. Now, like I said, I'm a goody two-shoes. The boy starts walking in, and I'm like, oh, it's happening. And I'm like watching. And he comes up and I was like, don't sit there! I put glue on it! And I'm like, don't do it! And now, what's happening? My classmates are 100% convinced that I am totally weird. I am 100% embarrassed. But for me, that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the thought of going back to school the next day and the retaliation that I thought I was gonna face because of this dumb, stupid, embarrassing idea I had. Yeah, I remember going home that night, and I'm a nice Jewish girl here, but I'm not the most religious, but I was doing something very prayer-esque, and I remember just like praying, like, don't make tomorrow the absolute worst thing for me. I described that night as the night that I hit rock bottom. Yeah. I joke that I'm glad I hit rock bottom in 5th grade because I definitely couldn't afford to do it now. You know the feeling, right? Oof. So at this point, I was determined to find a way to build my confidence so that I could make my first real friend in middle school. And maybe catch up to my peers in school. Goals, right? So what did I do? I studied social behavior. I watched for cues. I watched when people interacted with me. I wanted to see how they would behave and all that kind of stuff. Because at this point, I knew that my peers weren't going to be there for me, and apparently not my teachers either. My happiness had to come from me and within. That was my only option. So I made some progress. I learned to adapt to people's social cues. And by the time I got to 7th grade, I went from total outsider to tolerable and annoying. Yay! Right, they acknowledged me! On top of that, the school was always in touch with my mom about my disability, and they were always recommending that I get a tutor. So from 2nd to 8th grade, I had the privilege of having a tutor. And one in particular really changed the game for me. This is my 7th grade tutor, and she did something a little weird. So she was the first person that helped me actually read my first ever chapter book. When I saw chapter books, they were like this, and I was like, ugh, that's terrifying. It was so thick, I was like, I can't do this. But over the course of the summer, I had successfully read The Princess Diaries. Some of you just realized that it was a book. It was a book. And I didn't know how much this experience and even the book symbolized for me, till a few years ago, I got the privilege of meeting Meg Cabot, the author. Yeah, and I got to try to get her autograph. So I'm walking up to her thinking this is gonna be a normal fan to celebrity interaction. Give her the thing to sign. And immediately, I didn't know this was gonna happen. My eyes just water and burst into tears. She was confused, I was confused. But in that moment, I was like, this book was huge for me. On top of that, another thing she did was she helped me study for my science exams. So the way this worked is that she, because she was a 7th grade teacher, she actually had access to the 7th grade science tests. I promise you, I didn't get to see them, but she would quiz me on the answers. And by the end of it, I was not only prepared for the test, but I knew science so much better. So what happens? I'd get the test back, and I'd look, and I would explode with excitement, because I got 100%. I needed you all in middle school. This is great. So it was really her belief in me that got the ball rolling for me to feel like I could absolutely achieve anything I set my mind to. Now, some of you might wonder, does my disability still affect me today? I'm gonna be honest, it does. But do I have ways to work around it, like getting reader softwares and using tutoring tools and all that kind of good stuff? Absolutely. I'm great, and it's all fantastic. Yes! Do I still get super awkward in group situations? Also, yes. Right? I feel you, Nick. I love it. But do I still love to meet new people and call myself a networking junkie? Also, yes. So, yay. I know the power of... Oh, you know what I'm going to say? You know what? For those of you who are wondering, I have friends. So I did good. I learned a lot. Do I still have to feel like I have to depend on On myself for confidence boosts, yes. Do I have wonderful people who encourage me? You can see it here tonight, absolutely. I know the power of what one person's word can do. I know that for me, my tutor shifted everything for me and helped me realize what was possible. But I also know that support isn't always available. Lucky for me, I found a tool that helps me keep my happiness going. Do you want to learn what my tool is? Okay, so what I do is I have a Google slideshow, kind of like the ones that we saw here earlier, where I collect any kind of messages that anyone has ever sent me, like, Shaily, you're great, or Shaily, you inspired me, or you helped me solve this problem, and I keep it in there. So whenever I'm bawling, crying, overwhelmed, stressed out, whatever it is, I just read it, and it's like getting the right messages when I didn't know I needed it. It's like my friends are right next to me saying, you can do it. And that, to me, has been a game changer on my worst days. And you can do it, too. Yes. I know every single one of you in this room has a unique, dare I say, superpower. But I know that we often have to hide them for various compelling reasons, like life, family, and finances. But what I say, don't deprive the world of what makes you special. Thank you.